In this tutorial we aim to review the habitual use of the most popular products that used on daily for disinfection. We are sometimes making mistakes that can be dangerous. Moreover, we want to shed light on some deceptions and nonsense about some of the most sophisticated products in the cleaning industry. Sometimes, we want to come up with easy and affordable solutions and we buy products that do not give us solutions and may even be harmful to our health. We are going to start with the daily products that we use regularly in our home to disinfect. The main product we use is usually bleach, sodium hypochlorite. This product usually has a concentration of between 3 and 8% of sodium hypochlorite. Let's see how we dilute bleach when we need an adequate concentration, for example, to clean toilets or objects that are very dirty or suspected of being contaminated. We are going to add 4 ounces of bleach. Taking into account that this one that we usually use is 4%, always check the manufacturer's indications. Fill with bleach to the appropriate line and then fill with water to complete a 1/4 gallon. In the case of regular cleaning at home, or the objects that we bring for example from the supermarket, we are going to use a dilution of 1 ounce for 1/4 gallon. We have drawn a line here, more or less at half the height, and we will always stay below that line. We complete the ounce and add water. We pour it into a sprayer and shake it to get it perfectly mixed. It is interesting to use a sprayer like this one because it allows us to distribute the product in an even way on all the surfaces we want to clean. In this case we are going to clean this thermos. We spray over it and let the product work. Keep in mind that for bleach to work, it needs certain time. Note that the procedure I follow is to spray on these surfaces to homogenize as much as possible and reach all possible places that I have to clean. I'm going to let it work and, later, the cleaning cloth serves to remove any bleach excess that may be and to do a final cleaning. But basically, the disinfection procedure consists in spraying the surface. When the bleach is working, it kills all the germs on the surface. With the cloth, what I have to do is take it to the tap and wash it well with water so that it remains clean of the remains of bleach and dirt. Something very important. This mixture that I have carefully prepared serves me only during 1 day. We cannot store it for more than 1 day, because the chlorine is very volatile and it is not sure if this preparation that I have made, even if it is closed, will keep the concentration the next day. Something that is also important about the use of bleach. If we apply it directly on foods like fruits or vegetables, it is always necessary to wash very well those products because we are going to eat them in. Of course, we do not apply bleach on meats, fish, pasta and others. We cannot take that risk. It is not necessary because they are products that are going to be cooked, so there is no risk of infection. We can only disinfect raw food that are washable to remove the surface chlorine. We also cannot use chlorinated products to clean the objects such as mobile phones, electronic devices, keyboards, or similar, because chlorinated products are very oxidizing, and, since we cannot remove the remainder of the bleach properly, we are going to spoil these objects. To do the cleaning by example of a mobile phone, also something very important because as one of the places where the coronavirus, or in general, any pathogen, lives most happily, due to the amount of traces of fat. The virus itself is enveloped in a lipidic membrane, which is a fatty cover, and in these surfaces it remains very happy because it is very well protected in these conditions. Thus, it is important to disinfect mobile phones. But, in order to do this, we will always use alcohol. Don't use 96 alcohol, this is important. 96 alcohol is too aggressive and we run the risk of spoiling it. We use alcohol like this one, which is 70 alcohol. It is the one we use for cleaning. If you have 96 alcohol, which is the one usually sold in drugstores or pharmacies, what you can do is to pour 70% of the wanted volume of alcohol, and complete the rest with water. Cleaning surfaces will prevent us from dragging contamination, especially with our hands, and taking it to our faces, for example. But it is true that there is a second type of source of contamination that is a little more complicated and is where you have to be more careful because they cheat us. We put on a mask because we know that one of the most polluting elements there is that many times, when a person sneezes, or simply talks, they are generating an outflow that generates a kind of aerosol where viruses are floating, which is something we know. In the case of the coronavirus we are talking about, it can stay in suspension for up to 5 hours and, of course, since it is floating in the air, it moves along with air currents. This is indeed a problem because, in addition to disinfecting surfaces, we have to look for more complex disinfection systems. Analyzing this, we were looking and searching in two lines. We researched about ultraviolet light and about ozone, which are the two things that we know that work. The problem with ultraviolet light is that, unless you have devices that manage to cover 360 degrees, and cover all the surfaces and all the areas that we have to disinfect, if we don't achieve that, it doesn't work. If I put an ultraviolet light here, I know this area is exposed and therefore the effect that it has on this type of germs is going to destroy them. However, those that are here, those that are in the shadow zone, will not be destroyed. That is a problem. Hence, when they sell us that kind of equipment of ultraviolet light that looks like a kind of pen and with which you can aim the light, the problem is that they are absolutely insufficient elements because, neither by time nor by intensity, they are not capable of destroying pathogens. The same thing happened to us when looking for ozone systems. We found things that if the ozone-related equipment that they sometimes sell us to clean our homes worked, we would intoxicate the whole family, because ozone can never be inhaled by living beings. So what we did was to further investigate, and fortunately we found people who also coincidentally, I have known for a long time, and that I did not know that they were engaged in this, that they are ozone protect. What they do is industrial disinfection. They have years of experience in this, and we have been able to learn how the ozone issue really works, what works and what are the requirements for this to really works, and, thus, be able to learn about it and avoid being deceived by things that have nothing to do with it. Look, this is an ozone kit, but one of the real ones. It is important to know how it works so that we will not be fooled by false promises. As you can see, it has a kind of fan and, inside, some plates that have the purpose of creating a kind of electric corona, of ionization, which converts the oxygen from the surrounding air into ozone. To understand it easily, it is the same thing that happens, for example, when there is a storm. When the first lightning strikes, we notice what we call the smell of ozone. What is happening is that, electrical discharges ionize the air. What it does is that the oxygen molecules are dissociate and react to form ozone. Ozone has a disinfection function very similar to the one we saw in bleach. They are products that have a very high oxidation power and, therefore, any element in contact with them will undergo this oxidation process, and in the case, for example, of viruses, they will destroy them. What is happening? Well, logically, for this to work, it is not enough to have the necessary elements to generate ozone. What it is also needed is to generate ozone in the required concentration, otherwise it will not be able to destroy every trace of the virus. Besides, I have to make sure that the machine has enough force to generate air currents to distribute the ozono all around the room. Take into account that it will also disinfect surfaces. It must be used by professionals who know how to use it, know the required time and the concentration are, know what the optimal ventilation methods. This technology has the great advantage that the ozone then easily reverts back to oxygen. But, of course, you have to know how long to ventilate and how long it takes. I would say that these are products that we must take into account even if we are being invaded by offers that are too good to be real. Please regard that these products are for professional use. Those for domestic use, honestly, must be taken with many observations and, as far as possible, avoided. And, in the case of a house, for example, ventilate a lot and that's it, it is the best solution. To give you an idea of how long it takes to disinfect, a motorhome can be done in a couple of minutes. A medium-sized office, about 600 feet, in about 10 minutes, and a cinema, using a couple of machines, can be done in about 15 minutes. Please remember that the room must be ventilated for at least 30 minutes afterwards. And, as always, thanks for your like if you liked this video. Share it with your friends who like DIY. Remember to subscribe, if you are not already, and click to the bell to receive notifications.